Good afternoon, JP Garu.
Good afternoon, Jayaprakash Garu.
So, as I was coming over to see you to have this conversation, as you're already aware, there's a lot of debate between UPA and NDA. I quickly ran some numbers, right? 7 years of NDA versus 7 years of UPA, because 2022, all the numbers are not out yet. So, till 2021, that's 7 years of NDA. And if I look at it, under UPA, the last 7 years of UPA, the GDP has gone up 58% in 7 years, 42 in NDA, 42%. Now, there is COVID in there, right? So even if you take COVID out, then probably it will come to 50 somewhere nearby, but NDA is underperforming there. Unemployment, though there is a lot of talk in some quarters, the unemployment spiking, but generally I'm seeing, during COVID it went to 8 and 6, but hovering in 5 and 6%, both UPA and NDA, unemployment. Public debt, under UPA, in the last 7 years, it went up 90%. Public debt, the total debt, right, the government debt, including the external debt, went up 90%. Under NDA, it went up 95%. So, almost about the same. The budget, the government expenditure, how much it is spending every year. Under 7 years of UPA, it went up 87%. Under NDA, it went up 93%. Inflation, hovering between 8-10% under UPA, actually NDA did better. Though there's so much talk about inflation, NDA is doing better on inflation in the 5% range, except again when the COVID came and the government has to pump in. Exports, same thing, 58 to 60% increase. So it's practically, if you take, barring the inflation number, in terms of numbers, I don't see much difference between UPA and NDA.
What it means is that
now the question is, how is this better?
No, so that's why we are not interested in comparing. That's for politicians. Let them make a case, who will do what, let them come out with an economic plan. But for us as objective observers who care for the future of the country, to me there are two lessons in this. Overall, our political system is still not aligned to long-term high economic growth. Somehow we are apologetic about growth. Somehow we think growth is only for the rich man. Mm-hmm. Completely disregarding the absolute fact that growth always benefits the poor. Growth gives better quality of goods and services, better quality of life, employment, incomes for the poor. The rich can manage it even going abroad if necessary, if India does not supply them. So the notion that high growth at our level of economic development and poverty is the most important requirement, and we must bury our hatchet and then come together is not yet internalized. The second part, the first generation reforms of Manmohan Singh and P.V. Narasimha Rao, they were great, they did it with great integrity and sincerity, and they took them to completion. Though they were not full reforms, they were only partial. Whatever they took up, they took it seriously. But subsequently, there are two problems which are not adequately addressed. That A, when you take up something, a grand pronouncement is not the issue, but carry it through the conclusion. The second part, first generation reforms required merely removing the obstacles. Mm-hmm. There is a dam, right, which is simply impounding all the water. It's not allowing it to go down. Yeah. You broke the dam.
All that
flew down, that became the growth.
Right? So just
once the dam is empty, reservoir is empty upstream, any amount of breach in the dam will help. Catchment treatment. Now you must ensure that more water flows. That is education, healthcare, infrastructure, rule of law, ease of doing business, a business-friendly environment. On that, we have not paid enough attention. We are somehow assuming that the whole world is begging us, they want to come and set up shop here, without realizing that there are multiple options for them. We have to create conditions conducive to them.
See, the sad part, we are a $3 trillion economy almost. Taiwan, which is a speck, it's a small country, it's almost $1 trillion. It's, I think, 800 or $900 billion economy. The countries, we don't have to go all the way to the West, United States or Europe or some
South
of those
Korea,
developed countries.
Taiwan, yes, absolutely right.
Next door. It's right next door. We had Taiwan, we have Singapore, we have South Korea. Then people used to say, those are small countries. We can't compare ourselves with them. Their challenges are different. We are a huge, diverse country, and it's very difficult to manage this behemoth. And then came China. And China went from the 80s, China was behind us. Now we've seen China, we've seen Taiwan, we've seen South Korea, we've seen Hong Kong, we've seen Singapore. They are neighbors. Why do we Indians refuse to learn from them?
I think we believe too much in Indian exceptionalism. As you said rightly, if you show Singapore or South Korea, they say small countries. If you say China, show China, they say dictatorial country.
Dictatorship.
And if you say some other country, you have some other excuse. Bangladesh. Bangladesh is growing very fast in recent years.
Right.
And there at least you have no excuse whatsoever.
Yeah. Per capita GDP is higher than India today.
Bangladesh is, in terms of nature, it's perhaps the most cursed country. The floods and the cyclones and the enormity of the challenges there and the abject poverty. And of course, the same problems as we have monumental corruption. It's not even politically better managed country. But just by doing a few things right, Bangladesh actually is showing better now. So what it means is that there is, I think, in the Indian intellectual debate, not only political, but even on the TV, etc., a notion that we are alone. We are frogs in the well. We have no idea what's happening in the rest of the world. Actually, I'm always struck by this. My work mainly is not economy, but governance reforms. But in terms of governance, what other countries are doing, in some respects, how they're doing much better, maybe we could actually learn from that, is not an idea that occurs to us. We only look at ourselves, lament the problems all the time. We do all this chest beating and all this shouting, but we don't want to look at a solution. When I first visited in 2001 Kenya, I monitored the election for the first time after 27 years. There was a presidential election after Daniel Arap Moi, the dictator, and there was also a parliamentary election, local government election, all on the same day. There are some features of Kenyan election which struck me as very, very interesting, and actually we can learn from them. Despite having no democratic experience, remember, they were a dictatorship until that time. They had a primary election in the party conducted by the election commission, in which the dictator president's son lost and could not become parliamentary candidate. A country which had no democratic experience had institutionalized that practice. We are in 2022 today. You try and make anybody understand what it actually means. And when I try to tell people, they say, no, what do they know about elections? We are the best in the world about elections. So we have this frog in the well attitude. And we don't look at the world around us and see what are the things that can be adopted. Not that everything can be adapted. We have to adapt it to our conditions, our requirements. But we are human beings. We are not that different from the rest of the world. If South Korea did a few things, they did a few things wrong, and later they did a few things right. We did a few things wrong. 1955, for instance, Milton Friedman came to India at the request of Government of India. Nehru's government, despite being somewhat xenophobic and socialist, invited a market fundamentalist to come and advise them. And he came up with a plan. We rejected it foolishly. Had we embraced it in 1955, how wonderful the country would have been.
Whereas Hong Kong and Singapore did.
Exactly. Had we decentralized power, for instance, had we instituted rule of law, had the government stuck to its main job. So we somehow have a notion that we are unique, we are exceptional. Yes, each country's culture is unique, history is unique, but economic laws are universal, physical laws are universal, medical science is universal.
Yeah. Thank you, JP Garu. Thank you for your time and wonderful exchange of views.
It's a great conversation, but let's be optimistic. I'm a great optimist. I believe that things still, on the whole, are getting better, but they could get a lot better much faster.
Let us hope so. Thank you.
SocialPost.news ని సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేయండి.
Please subscribe to SocialPost.news.
Please subscribe to SocialPost.news.
Please download Social Post app.
Please download SocialPost app.